and it is nuts to play with, but we'll give it our best shot, and hopefully you'll enjoy the content that's a little varied today. So let's get over to the news, and we're going to start with a political ad from a Minneapolis mayoral candidate, and this was from a collection of video campaigns of campaign commercials that were so crazy that you might want to vote for them. I'm not sure that's the case in this one, but let's go play it.
You know what I want? A Minneapolis mayor that really represents the people.
I am cool with making $100,000 a year. I will not take money from the developers. I will not take money from the political angle. I will not even go to the strip clubs anymore. Wake the f*** up.
Okay, so off he goes, and I'm not sure I'd vote for him, but ever since they had Jesse the Body Ventura as a governor up here in Minnesota, you kind of wonder. And this guy seems to be trying to take a page out of that guy's political action book. So anyway, let's get over to the real news. We'll get over to the PDFs. I stumbled across this guide to mailing and how to do mailings from the USPS, and it was pretty good. And what I liked best about it was that it talks about lists. And the first thing, and this is the first question I always ask. I've gotten a new client and a couple of new projects, and where we start is think about what lists you already have. That's, because usually they want to, they think immediately of I need more customers. I want to get more customers. And but the place to test, the place to learn what is really working for you is in your existing customer lists, and what lists you already have. Do they need hygiene, etc.? Good questions to ask. How can we utilize what we already have to gain information so that we can make the prospecting more effective? Because prospecting is notoriously difficult. Most companies completely underestimate their ability to prospect and their understanding of their current list. So I did some work for Windham Hill Records. It was an independent record company, and I got out to California to help them, and they said, well, we've had our lists profiled, and we know that most of our customers are men, 35 to 55, high income, high education. Okay, but we rent those lists, and we just don't get any decent results. And sometimes consulting is just trying not to laugh too hard at what people tell you. Because later I looked up and there were about 13 million of those sorts of people, right? I said, well, how many of these CDs do you get rid of in a year? And they said a couple of million. So even if 100% of their customers were that, which, with music is impossible, they still would have only about a 20% chance that people who were that also were fans of their music. It just doesn't work that way. And so I said, how many do these get rid of? And they said a couple of million. I said, you ever think of putting a card in there that says we have a free catalog? And they said, we could do that. And so in the first 6 months, I think we generated 600,000 catalog requests, which pulled 15% response, and we generated 90,000 new customers. And it worked so well that they sold out to BMG for something like 17 million. So it was an untapped resource right there, and it made millions and millions of dollars for their company, and I got $5,000 for the help, which was what we settled on, and a lot of CDs. Also, but here, they put this 40% in, and you think, well, 40%, when it comes to mailing lists, it's about quality. It's 40% of the reason a campaign succeeds or fails. Well, 40%, yeah. This comes from a tried and true urban legend that 40% of the success of your package is the list, and 30% is the offer, and 10 or 20% is the creative. Although I've seen just a minor change in the photograph on the cover of a catalog do 40% improvement, just that, without changing the list at all. So it kind of depends on how goofed up you are in what area, and that's why that generalization doesn't really work for someone who really knows what they're talking about. But it's a good place to start, and that's kind of, this will be up in the show notes, some ideas about lists and stuff, and it's a good checklist and something to look at. Okay, here's an article about integrated mail, integrating mail in your campaign ads, and it's from Jim Richard, a 25-year postal veteran, and what he's really doing is summarizing a report that the USPS put out. They went back and studied the Virginia election of 2021 and found out that a high percentage of people, here's the link to the report, the full report itself, which will be in the show notes, and 75% of voters in 2021 reading mail pieces upon receipt, and direct mail prompting 63% of voters to discuss the race with friends and family members. Excellent. That's a really great place to start. If you can have some conversation, get going, that's really great. Also, a high percentage went online to do further research. I think 2/3 said they did. Now, part of that is one of my pet peeves about campaign mail, is that it doesn't tell you what party they are, or almost anything about them, that makes some claim, and it's really, that it's highly spun, and so you have to go online to do some research. It may not necessarily be where they want you to go online, but you go around there and find something else. I've seen this before. Voters value authenticity. Not sure what authenticity even means in politics. 85%, this was a huge number, 85% of Hispanic voters agreed that when targeted authentically, direct mail had an impact on their opinion. And we get, sometimes at our house we get, I'm trying to remember who, it's like Spectrum, the cable company, sends us mailings in Spanish. And I don't know what the demographics are in my particular zip code. My guess is Hispanic is less than 1%. So if you're going to be authentic and you're mailing a Hispanic district, make it Spanish. At least make it the forward language with maybe English subheads or something. But if you're mailing to predominantly not Hispanic, keep it in English. I think it makes it work more effectively. Anyway, so that's enough of that. Now I want to talk about Ritson, and he's got it's a humdinger. I really like this one. Suffering from imposter syndrome. So when I got started as a marketing consultant, I actually had never taken a marketing course, right? I had sold advertising, basically door to door, business to business, and straight commission, and outsold many of the existing salespeople. And I had done some significant work for nonprofits while I was in college, including being the chairman of a campaign where we had 300 volunteers, and I forget our budget, but it was thousands of dollars, and we got 30,000 people to a Christian speaker on the University of Wisconsin campus, which was, it's pretty amazing. I don't think anybody believed that we did it, but we did it. And, we had legal battles along the way. We had all sorts of fun. But so I had some experience, and then I went out and sold printing. So I had print experience, and then I worked for a distributing company, and I set up their telesales, where outbound, where we would call customers, and then we programmed a new ERP system for their company. So I had computers, I had telesales, I had straight commission, business to business sales. I had some advertising and marketing. I had some graphic design. I designed all their brochures and things, and designed a lot of things, materials when I sold printing. So Vic Hunter, God bless him, hired me, and after a couple of months, he said, I think I greatly overestimated your qualifications. So maybe I had imposter syndrome. And you know, people, they'd introduce me at client meetings and they'd say, well, what's your background, John? How do you get to be a direct marketing consultant? And I would say, oh man, it's a miracle. God put me in this place. And I have no business being a marketing consultant, which I'm sure inspires confidence in your clients. And Stan Kakofka, who was one of the former presidents of Allen Bradley, pulled me aside one day and he said, John, maybe you should think about the reasons why you might belong here as a marketing consultant rather than all the reasons why it's a miracle. And that was very helpful for me. Very, very helpful. And I got to work with Bill Younger and Stan Kakofka and other really super professionals. And gradually, it became clear that I actually did have a kind of a knack for that, including 8 hours of psychological testing where they said they'd never seen anybody so well fit for their career. So anyway, Ritson takes this on and he says, marketing, he said, this is a thing for most professions, male and female. Despite earned degrees, scholastic honors, high achievement, and standardized tests, praise and professional recognition from colleagues and respected authorities, they consider themselves to be imposters, right? I remember talking to my advisor in grad school, and he said, that he wasn't sure that he was a really great philosopher, but, eventually, when he got his PhD, he got tenure. I think it was when he got tenure at the University of Wisconsin. He finally decided in his own head, yeah, I must be pretty good at this or they wouldn't keep me around. But, like you said, it's in every profession. But the term imposter syndrome was born from these two women who studied other women. And it's just as common in male subjects. And it's especially true, Ritson thinks, in marketing. Because here's the reason. Marketing, even their standing. I was asked at one of the community colleges to talk to kids about marketing, going into marketing. And I said, you'll never hold the purse strings. You'll always be begging for money from the CFO and the CEO. And it's, almost never get to be president of the company, at least the one you're working for, because they don't think you can run stuff. They think you're flaky. And there's a lot of truth to that. Microsoft's CMO, Chris Capicella, said in order to make marketing more successful at Microsoft, he first had to aggressively promote marketing's role. You have to get over imposter syndrome, he noted, and say, no, marketing sits right next to sales. It's a peer to sales, to engineering, to finance. It's not second to them. And I think about a book in David Ogilvy's book, Confessions of an Ad Man, which sounds a little like imposter syndrome, because he had, he worked in one of the 5-star or whatever restaurants in Paris, and he's from Scotland. And I don't think he had a lot of culinary training. And then he went to work in the Amish tobacco fields or something in Pennsylvania. And then he went to work for George Gallup and learned about the power of statistics and what you could learn. And somehow along the way with Gallup, I think, learned about the power of direct marketing and testing and went on to build one of the great agencies of all time. But in Confessions of an Ad Man, he talks about he did the Hathaway shirt ad, the famous Hathaway shirt ad, where on the way to the photography shoot, he stopped at a pharmacy to pick something up and he bought an eye patch. And they put the eye patch on the model for Hathaway shirts, and it was just a super attention-getting little device. And then he said he took Hathaway shirts from 10 million to 50 million or something in just like a year. And then a financier bought it from Hathaway's who'd been running it for 50 years or something. And in a year, he bought it for, let's say, 50 million, and he sold it for like 100 million. And so the finance guy doubled his revenue doing absolutely nothing, but using the eye patch that David Ogilvy had done. And David Ogilvy probably made, $1 million out of the whole thing. And most of that went to ad costs. So even David Ogilvy pointed out first that, the ad syndrome, just in the title of his book, and secondly, that the finance guy ended up making way more money. Did he begrudge that? He said, not really, but he knows that he was responsible for that. So marketing's tenuous position in many companies undermines marketers and their confidence. And I would say that is absolutely right. But after you change the valuation of a few companies and you do it over and over and over, I think 17 times I've dramatically multiplied the valuation of a company with marketing, and oftentimes with the unseen resources that their customer list might provide, or some other way that they can generate a marketing explosion. We did that with Adobe, with a division of Adobe, took them from 25 million to 50 million in about 6 months, and increased the revenue per piece and the profit per piece. So after a while, you realize that marketing deserves a place. Now, will they get one? They get one if you prove that it's the marketing and its causal force. And that's what direct marketing is about. In direct marketing, we don't just run a campaign and see that things went up. We keep the old campaign. We compare the control against the new test, and we look for the incremental boost in revenue. And so when you do that, if you're a marketing executive and you feel like you're not getting the credit, you need to get some help in setting up field valid experiments. Work with your CFO. Say, what would it take to prove this? When we worked with Cabela's, we brought in a new statistical machine learning concept there. And they told me that the very first mailing, we made them $2.4 million more than they had estimated they were going to make. Is that valid? No, they said no. And the CFO said, well, that's not a valid test, because he knew something about it, and he was right. And so we did another test, and we could recreate their methodology. And so we used their methodology, and we did it in the very tail end of in the very beginning of the hunting season, I think. Whatever we did it in a place where their methodology actually would work as well as it's going to work. And we still ended up beating their profit per piece by 75% incremental lift. Well, then they believed me, but then their IT people said they could do the same thing for less. So I got fired. So anyway, focus on the core principles. We're constantly being told, we shoot ourselves in our own feet because we say, direct mail is dead, radio is dead, TV is dead. You have to have the new shiny object. You have to have the digital marketing or whatever it is. But you can't have just digital marketing. You have to have TikTok, or you have to have so nothing you know from the past is valid. Well, that's a good way to undermine your own credibility if you have some experience. I remember when the internet started, it was like I had built more websites than most of the marketing people, that were making a big splash on the internet. And they, it seemed like if you had more than 10 seconds of experience, you were not believable. And it was sad, because today things are completely spinning around, right? And people are calling and saying, I think maybe we should try some mail. People seem to actually listen to that and believe it. So anyway, I better wrap this up. It's really worth reading. Ritson says, take some professional training. You'll find out that you may not be great, but everyone else is much worse. I did have the honor of teaching in Bob Stone and Martin Baer's direct marketing certification course out at University of Kansas, or University of Missouri, KC. And I also took the class, and I didn't do the highest on the final exam, but I got third. But our case study won, and so I was the valedictorian of the class. And so I found out that, yes, in fact, I do know what I'm talking about. But also, you'll find out that everybody else is not that good. We work in a very imprecise field. Marketing is trying to predict the future. Finance, they can be very cocky because they're just sorting out the future. They're counting the dead bodies. We're trying to figure out what the next strategy is for the next battle, and that is infinitely more difficult. So go easy on yourself. Doing basic marketing, you can add enormous value, as I said. Change the valuation of the company. I'm pretty sure most plumbers don't get imposter syndrome because at the end of the day, they do the basics well and they clock off at 5 p.m. Marketing isn't rocket science. It's not even science. Do the best you can, work hard, and don't be so hard on yourself. It may be science if you do direct marketing. So join the WDMA, help support our cause. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart.